Hello, Bravo bosses. This is the Bravo Investigator Podcast. I'm your host, Dana, and today we are talking about Married at First Sight, Season 20, Episodes 10 through 12. Let's get into it. Happy Sunday, everyone. I hope everyone's had a great week, and I hope you're excited to talk about Married at First Sight because I am. This is my favorite show on TV right now. And I know we feel bad for the couples who came into this with like true intent. And I question these experts who truly match these people because were you doing it for our entertainment? Because if so, I am entertained. But I feel bad for these couples because I they are all just so incredibly mismatched. So it's been a crazy run. Sorry it's taken me so long to get this episode out. I normally get this out on Saturdays. I was supposed to have a guest. She asked if we could move it to today at 4 p.m., which is kind of late. Um, I said, okay, because, then it doesn't leave me tons of time to get it out for by the end of the weekend. And then, like 20 minutes ago, she bailed. So here I am alone to do this, which is totally fine. But it is really fun to talk maths with somebody else because it's the laughter. It's truly the laughter. But I have somebody on board to chat with me next week. And then for the finale, I'll have Tane, finale and the reunion. I'll have Tane from the podcast Tane Talks, previously called Altar Call. And I was actually just on her podcast today. We just did episode 11 together. So she's doing it daily. And she's like the GOAT. She's like the OG of like Married at First Sight podcast. So shout out to Tane. But yeah, check out our episode today on Tane Talks. We talked episode 11. She's doing them more of like a more not line by line breakdown, but more of like a recap, and we talk like major themes and plot points. But we're here today. When I say we, I just mean me and you guys, of course, to talk Married at First Sight. If you are new to the show, hello and welcome. I hope you are enjoying. And I've been enjoying this very different format that Peacock has given us, where we have less episodes, more episodes at one time, like dropped at one time. I like getting the 3 episode drop. As a podcaster, it's quite a bit, right? Because for me, I like to just watch it once for fun, just to like get it in, absorb it, and then I watch it once to take notes. 3 times if I can spare the time, but that's a lot of time when they're dropping 3 episodes, of course. So I've watched it. I've listened to other podcasts about it. I'm here to chat about it. Let's get into it. Let's just talk couple by couple because that's what we'll do. I would also say this wasn't the most interesting of drops. Well, how it ended was pretty interesting. But that being said, we got a little bit more of like the lifestyle stuff. I'm curious what you guys think of like the group dinners and the group therapy and stuff like that. I think it's an interesting way for the couples to interact and to get their opinions because there truly is nobody else that understands this experience like these other people, right? So I like how sometimes these shows will combine the couples in ways for activities or whatever it is to, I don't know, get feedback and that kind of thing. So I don't mind it, but at the same time, I think we are just missing a lot of just like the couples on their own doing their own thing. And that's probably because they're not doing their own thing. LOL, like Marissa and Adam, but like, they need to be. They need to be. That's the thing. Okay. Let's start with Tori and Felipe, which is, even though we're starting with this, it kind of goes crazy how it ends. But, we're going to start with this crazy one. So we thought these two were like solid, really, really good. But I think that as time has gone on, Felipe is starting to process what he has done here. He has signed up to be married at first sight. Yes, Felipe. 10 episodes in, finally like opened his eyes and he's like, wait, the same woman forever? The same vagina forever? I don't know. And it's starting to hit him, right? And we're seeing that play out in little bits. But first, we see Tori hanging out with her friends. She tells them it's going great with Felipe. Her major issue at this point in time, like early on in this drop of episodes, is just that he's cheated before and that he didn't tell the girl that he cheated on and that she found out another way. And she's worried that he's going to get bored and dip out. Well, well, she knows him well. I think they're in a good spot because she definitely knows him well. Because we get to this group dinner, and Felipe admits that he has been looking for a way out, which is absolutely crazy. He said his single life was incredible. He loves sleeping with lots of girls, and that if today was decision day, he would say no. And Tori takes this like on the chin, which is absolutely baller and amazing because she's very stoic, right, in her demeanor. And but even inside, right, when she's explained the situation with her mother getting cancer and how she just had to like pick it up and move on and that kind of thing. So he says that like, it's more like when he tries to sort of rectify it in his brain, he sort of feels like, okay, it's just that I feel like I have to be in love with you by the end of this. And now I feel like I have to be in this race to be in love with you by the end of this, which is in 3 weeks from now. Because if I'm in love with you, this won't be a problem. I can totally commit, then I'll be fine. I'm just worried about getting there. All right. So just wanted to put that all out there and then we can chat. Oh, and the one other thing he said that I thought was really interesting was, or something that I've just seen with him as like a theme. I'm not sure that he has any like particular wants or needs. He seems to just go with the flow when it comes to what he's looking for in his future, which is weird. If you're atheist, for you to just be like, if you want to raise the kids Christian, cool. Okay, but he does that with everything. So they have conversations about just like having kids, and he's like, well, if you want to have kids, then I'll have kids. And it's just like, well, were you gonna have kids anyways, right? You can't just do everything just because Tori wants it, because then you will just resent her for those things later on. So I just thought that that was really interesting because as we've gone on, I just noticed that everything that she asks him if he wants, he says, sort of not really, but if that's what you want, I will give it to you, which sounds very chivalrous, doesn't it? But at the end of the day, yeah, you can't just like be that amendable and that agreeable to major and huge life decisions because look at where you ended up at the end of this. So let's get back to how we ended with this, right? So Tori feels like he has a lot of work to do and that's not her job. And I feel like again, just she's just super strong and I really appreciate that about her because she could totally break down right now and it would be totally understandable, totally justifiable, absolutely. But why is he just, why did he sign up for this? You know what I mean? Because for him to say, like, my single life was incredible, I love sleeping with lots of girls, then it seemed like he was living the life, which he basically says. He was like, I was living the best life. And here's what I think it might be, besides, like, I forget how he signed up for this. Did they find him on LinkedIn? Somebody let me know. I don't quite remember. But or it's like the opportunity to be on TV or whatever it is. But that's a big ass life decision to make to just be on TV, you know what I mean? So I just find it super odd for somebody who is living his best life to sign up for something like this. That being said, I see another running theme throughout some of these other guys where when they're asked why they signed up for this or just like at different points in time, I hear some of the guys say, well, I was just so lonely. Well, I was lonely. And that's what I feel like it was for Felipe, right? Like he was living this amazing life, but it was hollow. And so there was still like a loneliness that he was feeling. He's like, well, in order to fill that, I must need a wife. That must be what it is. But that wasn't what it is, right? Because he has that now and he feels like trying to get out of this. But what's so difficult is she's so perfect. She looks like Dua Lipa. She's everything that he asked for, and he can't think of a way out of it. I thank God in a way, because in previous seasons, I've seen so many of these people, one partner or the other, it's not like even gender specific, who will try to find every little thing about this person wrong with them to try to like break them down, to try to come up with a reason why they're the problem and therefore it's justified for me to leave this trial marriage. Like there was this guy, I can't remember his name, but the season was wild. He walks down the aisle to the girl. He knows her. not in the same way as Marissa and Adam did, but like he knows her from like this dating. He was like in charge, or not in charge. What's the word? He like owned, I guess, a dating company, I guess. And so they set up like singles nights. And so she was at one of those singles nights with her friends. And he was not attracted to her because he was only attracted to people of color and she was extremely white. I'm telling you that this was the reason, okay? But he 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 couldn't really think of anything wrong with her, so he kept trying to convince everyone she was an alcoholic, which is wild, right? Like it was so wild. She had this come back to him once, like, I've never come home at 4 a.m. and puked everywhere. You have. It was just so good, right? And Pastor Cal, who was one of the experts at the time, really put him in his place. He was like, basically, like, stop it. Stop treating her that way. So, anyway, sorry, just went off on a tangent there, but I was hopeful for these two. I really was. I feel like he's getting in his head a lot too, because listen, there's no way I could do this expedited, crazy process. It's super stressful. It's scary. And he might just be having one of those, what would you even call this? Like a, not even a panic attack, but like a, have you ever, is this called something where you just sort of settle in your feelings, realize what reality truly is, and sort of freak out? I don't know. I don't know. It is a lot of reality, right? So I assume you sort of ebb and flow, but it's also like, I get this is a reality show, but there's inside thoughts and there's outside thoughts. And for him to say all of that to the group at dinner, just to be like, I'm trying to get out of here, I would say no. Like, wild, right? Wild. It's just like a lot. You're making great reality TV, Felipe, but oh my goodness, like your wife is right there. So that's Tori and Felipe. I guess we'll see what happens, right? Like, she's right. He has a lot of work to do. And I feel like he has a lot to prove to her at this point. Okay, let me take a swig of water. Let's move on to Sean and Nikki. So we start this drop of episodes where Nikki is actually feeling a lot more hopeful about Sean. She's feeling compatible with him. Oh my gosh. I can't even believe this scene that we're about to talk about. So we get this like apartment cam footage where Sean is only wearing a towel and Nikki is fully dressed. And he approaches her and he's like, I wanted to ask if we can do things that aren't sex because like I have needs. And can we do things like mutual masturbation? He's like, I don't want to get myself off. I want it to be like a real marriage. And he said, it's part of showing up as a wife if your man has a need and fulfilling that need. Okay. So I just want to make sure that I've got the proper wording here because he denies it later. So he says, it's part of showing up as a wife. So Nikki is like, no. I mean, this woman has expressed that she is not truly like fully attracted to him yet. She's getting there slowly. And okay, I'm gonna let her say it and then we'll get to it. But basically later that day, Nikki tells Sean that, she was caught off guard by him and his towel and what he asked her. And she told him that she wanted to move slowly and she wants like the sexual stuff to sort of come naturally. And she said that she didn't like that he framed the whole thing as like performing sexual acts as a wifely duty, and it made her feel uncomfortable and she felt pressure. And Sean's like, oh my God, no, no, I didn't mean it like that. Not at all. Like, I cannot believe you took it that way. I was talking more about like, I don't even know how he changed it around, but that is what he said. Okay, right? Like part of showing up as a wife. Okay, first of all, I have to give her like major props for even like talking to him in such a like demure manner here because like I don't even know that I could. And the way that she expressed what she was feeling is so understandable to me because she's saying like we're getting there slowly sexually. She's like, I think we are progressing. We're doing these small things like hugs and kisses and cuddles. And Sean's like, well, I'm not gonna have a platonic interaction with you and say yes on decision day. Like that's not gonna happen. I need to feel growth. And Nikki's like, okay, but I feel like you can't do this gradual progression because he feels like there hasn't been growth. She feels like there is. And I feel like there's a lot of similarities here between Nikki and Sean and Devin and Caitlin, who we'll get to later. But, it really just shows how much they just cannot get on the same page because even though they feel a lot more hopeful and compatible now, there's just so much it's just so clear that they don't communicate great and they're just like not aligned on so many things. That being said, I think the way that Nikki communicated this was amazing because I just don't know that I would have had the same I just don't know that I would have been able to. I think I would have been out, quite frankly, right? Like just like approaching me in the towel. There was just something about that that just felt like I don't know. I didn't like it. I just didn't like it, especially because like she doesn't feel truly comfortable with you sexually. And there's something about that where like, okay, I know that I could never be on one of these shows, and I've said that before. I would get like the major ick. Like I don't would not, I'm the kind of person that if I don't like love you, do not touch me anywhere at all. Like I just would be so icked out. So she started with the ick, but then it was coming away slowly. But then they kept getting in these fights, and that stopped the progression of her even getting there sexually, which I'm impressed that she's even able to progress that, considering they kept getting stunted on that because they kept fighting. So she's getting there, she's doing these little things, and now he's saying it's sort of like not enough. And I get what he's saying at the end of the day, where he's like, maybe what he's saying is kisses and cuddles are not enough for me to say yes on decision day. Okay. But then maybe you can't say yes on decision day, right? Like she can't you just don't want to feel forced as a woman. It's just it's got to feel natural. It's got to feel like a progression. And I feel like she is doing her goddamn best, Sean best. And I don't know. I don't like this guy. I just don't. I started off really liking him and now I just don't, right? Like this entire scene just made me so incredibly uncomfortable. And I would never talk to the guy again if I'm being quite honest. Um, so they end up checking out each other's places. She thinks that his would have been like more put together. Nikki's place is really bougie, but Sean thinks that he's actually more bougie than her. So it's just like he's always trying to compete with her, even though he says in fights, when they're trying to end fights, I feel like he's always tries to end it by saying, you know what? I don't need to compete with you. I don't need to win. But like, I feel like intrinsically he does. You can't just like switch that off like a light. So not a big deal, but it's funny about that. But Sean could see himself living at Nikki's place, and she's happy about that. So, I mean, they have that, right? They don't have the same situation as like, let's say, Cam and Michelle, where there might be a situation where they have to move. You know, he's fully comfortable in her place, and I feel like in terms of Nikki progressing sexually, I feel like that's probably a huge win. I'm actually glad that he said that before decision day because even if they were to move into her environment right now for those final 3 weeks, I bet that she would get there because right now, not only are you with a new man, you're in a new space too, right? It's just like, again, a mind fuck. So I bet, not that they ever really do this or whatever, like it's not really part of the process. Part of it is to like move into this mutual space and to have it not really be an issue. But at the same time, I could see her just like being so much more comfortable in her own space, seeing him in that space, and then just seeing how well he fit, if he fit well, and just kind of going from there. But Nikki, honey, I can't wait till this is over for you. I do not see this couple making it, obviously. I think he's doing this to promote a book, right? Because I saw him, or like he mentioned that in the episode. He said something about a book that he wrote, and I saw him promoting it online. So I, I don't even know what it's about. I didn't even look at it. So that could be why he got into this. Who knows? But Nikki, honey, I hope you found an amazing man after this process ended. Okay. Let's move on to Marissa and Adam. And so our perfect couple have realized that they are not so perfect because Marissa has realized since this last group session that she and Adam are bad at being serious. LOL. They cannot believe, right? And so they take the jet ski to go play pickleball with Nick and Courtney. And Marissa is not a fan of this. She was just like, pickleball, right? And a girl after my own heart, of course. Now, this scene I really didn't like. When they're playing pickleball, he gets irritated that she's not good at it, okay? And it's not like she's not trying. She is trying. But he's so competitive that that's more what it's about. It's not even like a girl who tags along and is willing to do whatever you want to do, because that's what she's been doing, right? She has been giving amazing girlfriend. But now he's annoyed because like he wants her to be good at it. And that is just like so unfair. And so he keeps sort of like telling her to get out of the way and telling her to back up. So he's basically playing against Nick and Courtney at this point. And It's interesting because they get to the group dinner, and at the group dinner, Marissa said that they finally had a bad day. And Adam said that he envisioned himself playing sports with his partner and joining leagues with her and like, competing against each other and stuff. And Marissa's like, we haven't done any of my things. We haven't hung out with my friends. We haven't gone on dinner dates. Like we've only done his stuff, which again, she's been so amazing about. And it just kind of shows how incredibly selfish he is. Like you would think if he was so into her and things were going so well, he'd want to see that side of her life, but he doesn't. He just wants somebody who fits completely into his jet ski life and vibes well, of course. Um, now it begs the question, Adam, if this is what you wanted, why didn't you tell the experts that? And he says, he didn't think he cared about that, but he had this previous girlfriend where they like did all of these hobbies together and they played in leagues together, and now he cannot live without that. He can't live without it. And that was like a crazy twist, right? To be like, I can't live without this. And it sort of reminded me of somebody that I dated where, listen, he wasn't good at any particular sport, right? Like he was okay. He joined like intramural leagues and things like that here and there, but his passion was baseball, but he was never any nothing. So he tried to teach me, uh, he was trying to teach me to hit or something like that. And he was just getting so frustrated that I wasn't good at it, that I didn't have that coordination. He was really trying to break it down to like a science. He's like, look here, put your bat here, stand here. And I'm trying, right? But then he ended up getting so mad that I couldn't do it. And then he sort of tried to, again, like I'm sure there was lots, we broke up for lots of reasons, but he tried to make this one of the sticking points in his list of like ridiculous reasons. And one being like, I want someone who's like good at sports and can play sports with me or whatever. And it's just like, okay, go find that, right? Like that's like it's not a ton of people, but it's like, you know, you're not that good at sports, sir. It's not like something that you do often either, right? So it just felt very like stupid. I remember him buying this ex of mine. He joined like an intramural hockey league. He ended up buying like this $250 hockey jersey with his last name stitched into the back, and he bought like hundreds of dollars of hockey equipment. He was trying to like look the part. He ends up going one time, realizes everyone is so good there and is so much more competitive, and it was just supposed to be fun, but he didn't really like it, so he quit. But yeah, you go find a girl who is super into sports and does that with you once every 6 months. Okay, so at least Adam is realizing that he's the weird one. He's like, I realize it's weird that I need that. I get that. So they end up having a sit down with Dr. Paz, which thank goodness. And she tries to kind of like break down where this maybe came from. And he's like, I had to do all of these activities when I was a kid. I had to do piano, I had to do Boy Scouts, and I hid them from my friends because they were so embarrassing. And he says that he wants someone who's active and puts their all into that and wants to play pickleball for the next 60 years. So it's like my fucking nightmare, this guy, right? Like playing pickleball for the next 60 years. She's dying, right? Marissa says she's stressed that it'll always be on his mind that she can't keep up. Because again, it's not even about, it's more about the fact that she's not good at it and that she's not like jazzed about it as well, right? Like it's, it's, she is trying. And like, I just feel like she should be given so much more props for the fact that she is so outside of her comfort zone and not doing any of her normal daily activities, if you think about it, right? So she ends up talking with Dr. Paz and with Adam about like anxiety that she's dealt with and, that how that's really difficult for her. She's dealt with depression and stuff growing up. And, we get back to the whole issue of like, what do you need in this marriage to be satisfied? And Adam admits he doesn't know if he will be 100% satisfied without a wife that wants to do all the things. So he says he wants to work on this. He's going to compromise. But if I were her, I'd be shitting my pants. Well, if I were her, I would be gone by now. This man is ridiculous. Okay, in so many respects. The way that he dresses, the way that he talks, the fact that he can't take anything seriously. Does he work full time? Because how is this guy playing pickleball 5 days a week, right? And like competing for hours on end. It's just confusing. So in my opinion, I would be out of this by now. But if I were really into him, which she is, and she wants to make this work, which she apparently does, the life he is presenting seems like an absolute nightmare, but it's also like a nightmare to your mental health because you're just sort of like, there's nothing she can do. She can't like it's not like you can convert to like, I mean, she could try harder and she could get better, but that's just like, ew. And it's so pick me. And she seems to be like out of that stage of her life, but it's more than pick me because again, can you imagine not liking pickleball, but this man is making you play pickleball till you're 90 years old? Ah, what a horrible life, right? So Marissa has a lot of thinking to do, but in terms of whether these two are gonna make it, I'm gonna go no. I'm gonna go no. I'm gonna go no. Okay. Cam and Michelle. We barely have anything to talk about here because they are so incredibly perfect. Nothing is wrong. They sit down with Dr. Lisa. They talk about figuring out their careers in line with what they want with this marriage. He has never been so happy. He's never had anyone that like speaks to him this way and treats him this way. They have had so many SCs, you guys, okay? Serious conversations. And they're, I want to call them like our Jamie and Doug. And if you know that reference, that's like our A1 Day One couple from like season one. Like, yeah, the very first season who were still married. But that being said, she was not attracted to him, so I wouldn't really call it like the same thing. But they're just so boringly happy, which is great for them, but bad for reality TV. So I don't have much to say on this except like I could see this, I could see something turning. We did have Cam earlier on in the season talk about his fears about like, he's never even had a long-term relationship, so the fact that he's talking like marriage, kids, it's boom boom boom, it's so fast. But again, it's fast for everybody here because we're in this expedited process. I think he's handling it really well. It does feel too good to be true, right? And like you're not going to cast boring people. So he also looks like this guy who ended up being really awful to his wife. It was a few seasons back. He was also super tall and an overseas basketball coach. And the wife was a twin. I don't know if anyone remembers this season or what I'm talking about, but it started off really, really great. She was so attracted to him, but he like really withdrew from her. He ended up like going out all the time and like not coming home for like days. Turns out he was like cheating, all this crazy stuff. So because he looks just like him, I am just kind of like worried just because of it's giving that presence, but who knows? And I heard from my friend Tane from Tane Talks when I recorded with her yesterday that Cam posted on his Instagram that he has moved to California for a job or that he's taken a job in California. So, uh-oh, because she was willing to move probably to Portland. She was considering it. But initially, Michelle was saying, if we have kids, I want to be near family. But it seems that he's had to move for his job, right? But they've been so amendable about that. So, or maybe this is a short-term thing. Maybe this is like a 2 year thing, and maybe in that time she could be getting her body ready for pregnancy. Or, actually, maybe I'm just being crazy. Maybe they can be married for a few years and just be chilling, right? So maybe she's like, sure, I'll go with you to California, but on the promise that when like, and maybe she got a remote job, like who knows? And then maybe she's like, when we have kids, we have to go back to Seattle because I want to be near family. So maybe that's what they've done. We'll find out at the reunion, I guess. Okay, let's move on to Mecca and Belle. I love them. They're so cute. So they do therapy with Dr. Paul, and Dr. Paul, no, I'm not calling him Dr. Paul. Paul, he's not a doctor, he's just Paul. So Paul ends up apologizing for upsetting Mecca by calling him performative at the previous group therapy. And I appreciate that because that was mean and that really hurt them, right? As much as Paul and Michelle calling Mecca and Beljolie performative upset them, it really did seem to push them together in a good way where they were really like had each other's backs. And I don't want to say that like it's a good thing because I totally understand how they feel. Like, who wants to hear from your peers and on TV and from like these professionals that you're performative? Ugh, right? I don't like that either. And I don't, they were just, listen, I think it might just be the wrong word because just like, maybe they're just being too elevated, but like, whatever, right? Like, whatever. I think there's ebbs and flows in these relationships. And I feel like there's days, like, even with Nikki and Sean, some days we're just like, you guys are doing amazing, amazing. You guys are an 8 out of 10, really? And it's like, okay, but things can change in a matter of hours, right? So maybe in that moment, they were feeling really, really great. So, let them have it. So they end up going to a recording studio where Beljolie records a song. I forgot that she was a singer-songwriter. She is not good. She's not good. I was disappointed by this, but Mecca seemed to be so proud of her, which is all that matters, right? If I don't think she's good, that doesn't mean anything, but she wasn't good. It wasn't good. But they ended up getting into, or they got into a fight the night before, apparently, something to do with how late they ended up staying out and whether she wanted to go home or he wanted to go home. Something like this. He ends up getting in his head about like getting in trouble because like that's how he grew up. He was always worried about getting in trouble. And, you know, it's interesting because it's a different dynamic when I mean so many people can look at their relationships that way where it's like, oh, I'm gonna get in trouble with my wife, right? But I feel like at the same time that's such a like motherly son way to look at a relationship as well, right? You should be looking at each other as like equals and equal partners, and like you shouldn't be thinking about it necessarily in terms of like getting in trouble. But I love that they still like really talked this out. At the group dinner, Mecca says that he has actually changed his mind based on like the last group dinner where he said he would be undecided at decision day. He now says that he would say yes at decision day. And Belgely really sticks up for him about the whole like performative thing. And this again is why I truly think that it was a good thing that it happened because it really bonded them. It pushed them to like really talk more about their relationship. It made them like defend their relationship to each other, but then also in this way, like for her to stick up for him, for her to have his back in front of the whole table. I swoon in a way, right? Like we would all be so lucky to have a partner that does something like that for us. And I love that. And then Michelle did end up apologizing for using the word performative. And Mac is really happy because he really liked Michelle and he really didn't like that. Okay. I think they're gonna make it. I really like them as long as he's attracted to her, which I think he is now, right? Like I feel like that was their only issue. And I wasn't never quite clear on whether he wasn't attracted to her because like the scale was so bizarre because he said that she liked him 150% and he liked her 80%. And 80% is still an A. So are you very attracted to her? Are you an A level attracted to her? I still can't tell. I think it might be something to do with that. So I hope they get there in that regard because I feel like other than that, these two are so perfect and I love them. Okay. Courtney and Nick. Oh man. Oh man. This woman needs therapy. I wish she wasn't taking it out on everybody here, including Nick. Because it's so clear this woman isn't ready for this. She is so rigid and so guarded and all of these things. And we start off with this group dinner at Felipe's restaurant where he's like, hey, everyone, let's have a birthday dinner for Courtney. And it starts with her not even wanting to sit next to Nick, trying to like figure a way out of it. Then she does not engage with him whatsoever. She has her back turned to him the whole time. And then Devin ends up standing up for his boy, Nick. And he's like, you are shutting him down. It's awful. And she thinks that she's doing nothing wrong at all. She ends up like going off on Devin. And like, I kind of appreciate him standing up for his bro in that moment because like, I am so confused as to why she's so grossed out by him. I can't imagine how she would be treating him if she didn't find him attractive because she does. So that's just sort of like the wild part too. But they end up going to talk with Dr. Lisa, and she sort of asks her to be warmer with him. Um, so they try this question game at home, and they kind of work through that. And Courtney talks about being cheated on and how she allowed it to happen. Um, it's interesting because she talks about homework in this regard. So she was like something about she was doing homework or he was doing homework, and there was like another girl on his FaceTime. It just shows how juvenile like some of these relationships are, right? Like she's only 28, so she's talking about a time that like she was in school. And like she did say that she had long-term relationships, but I'm not sure if those long-term relationships were actual relationships or more so situationships. I would definitely say that I've kind of like fudged the truth on those a bit too in the past because in the past, like I've been embarrassed to say like, oh, I haven't had a boyfriend. This is like before I had, or I was embarrassed to say that. So I'd be like, oh yeah, I mean, like I had this 2 year relationship with someone who was not my boyfriend, right? So I feel like that's possible here. But also just the fact that she's still so butthurt about this. Like, if you're talking about homework, are you talking about when you were in college? Because even still, that was like at least 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And you can feel the pain on her face when she talks about this situation. So you have not done the work on this at all. So I feel like it's so unfair for her to come into this process when she is so clearly still wounded and has so much work to do. I think she'll watch this back and see that, but like, Miss January 6th, Miss Girl. All right. Let's move on to when they go to play pickleball with Marissa and Adam. So we sort of have like a sit down between like Courtney and Marissa and then like Nick and Adam. And so Courtney tells Marissa that she doesn't feel like Nick is challenging her. She feels like she doesn't feel like he's really doing anything like in terms like everybody's sort of coming down on her, but she feels like he's sort of the one not doing anything. And Marissa feels like they aren't doing things that are her things, right? Which we talked about before, like happy hour and less pickleball. And then so at the group dinner, Nick says that he's been taking baby steps in the physical space, but he's still like being very positive. And you know how the experts are like watching those group dinners when they have them. So the experts say that like Courtney's body language screams, I hate him and I don't want to be here. And yes, that's the whole thing, right? So Courtney does her what she always does at these group dinners where she just really like comes at him and embarrasses him and she like blames him again by saying that she's making a lot of change and saying that he's not making any. And I feel like I will agree that in the last drop of episodes when we were saying or when the experts were saying like dude we don't even really know you so you need to open up more and you need to try. I feel like he is and he has, right? Like he talked about his family and how there was no physical touch and he has been asking her more about her family and stuff, right? So, but I also can understand just being like so tentative about navigating the situation and not being able to be your true self and that being so confusing because like you are walking on eggshells. You're around someone who doesn't like you. You know that. She cringes at your touch. She is so incredibly rigid, and it just makes you feel like, oh, okay, what? And she finds the strangest things to be corny. Like she finds like doing like sexy little games or whatever, like the experts gave them corny. Or I don't know, just she finds lingerie to be stupid. So like just everything is just so she's so opinionated on everything and she has these hard and fast opinions. So it doesn't really feel like they can have like broader conversations because it almost feels like she shuts down everything because everything is just like yes, no, yes, no. She's very robotic, right? That's part of her rigidity. But I can imagine myself just feeling like I can't really be my true self. And it's almost like it's not a thing where you're conscious of it. I feel like he's a little conscious of it, but I feel like for the most part, he's just trying to do his best to stay out of her way so that she doesn't like murder him in his sleep. I feel for this guy. I really do. I really want to get him on the pod when this is all said and done. I sent him a message on Instagram. He didn't respond, but we'll see. We'll see, you guys. Okay, let's move on to Devin and Caitlin. So at the dinner, after Courtney and after Devin and Courtney get into it, he ends up getting mad at Caitlyn for not taking his side, even though she wasn't present for the conversation. So this doesn't last too long, but then when they get home, he is still like super drunk and he starts blaming Caitlyn for not showing up as a wife. And then they get into a fight because he won't stop like picking at her. And she's just like, you're drunk, like you're fucked up. Stop, go take a shower. And it's just like, you can see that he has like a lot of animosity towards her because he's not his cup, right? His goddamn poor cup just does not feel full enough to him. And while he's drinking, which is fine, you can drink like it's a birthday dinner, whatever. And I kind of like I said, I kind of liked that he spoke with Devin. Like I don't think he necessarily or sorry, that he spoke with Courtney. I kind of like that someone is telling Courtney because no one, I guess, except the experts are really telling Courtney, like, hey, you're treating him like absolute dog shit. So I didn't mind that Devin did that. But why is he getting mad at Caitlyn? He's just getting mad at her because she exists, right? And again, she hasn't said this yet, but she said this early on. This is the kind of relationship that I don't want to be in. This is the kind of relationship that I hate. And I agree, right? Like this ends up turning into like a fight just because he's piss ass drunk and it's not cute, right? So like before we start being like, "Oh, Devin, you little puppy dog, I feel so sorry for you." Remember this, okay? Like let's just remember this for a second. So then Devin tells the camera that they kind of just live parallel lives. And we'll get into this a little bit more, but you know, I where he ends up going with this is basically like His cup doesn't feel full. He feels like there's all these red flags for him in the fact that she doesn't kiss him in the morning. There's pillows between them at night. And I truly believe that the physical affection piece for him, if it got there, if she was able to get there, I think he'd be fine with that. I feel like he just really needs to feel like loved and wanted through constantly being touched. And I feel like that just comes with time, right? Like I've talked about this personally, where like again, like just the idea of like touching you at all feels just very vulnerable and like I don't want to unless I'm like really into you. And then once I like love you, I do want to be all up on you and I want to like touch you all the time, right? So like she's progressing, she's doing those things, in my opinion. And I know there's a ton of Caitlyn haters out there. Don't turn this off yet, okay? Just like let me have my opinion. You can have yours. We can debate, we can spar. It's totally fine. But I'm gonna ride for my girl Caitlyn, and I just feel like she's trying because listen, we have Devin make her this Harry Potter designed dinner, and they're making like butterbeer, and they play a game, and they're really enjoying each other and laughing, right? So to me, that is progress, right? So when everyone on the internet is saying that she's giving him nothing, what is that? That's what dating is. You go on these dates, not necessarily at home, but you go on dates, either outside or at home. You engage in conversation, you laugh together, you get to know each other, you go your separate ways until you decide to have sex, right? So how is this any different? So she actually feels like she's getting more and more comfortable with him by the day. But Devin tells the camera after this Harry Potter night that there's no reciprocation and he's like so upset. So they have this scene where they go and hang out with Devin's friends. And again, she's doing amazing. She's bonding with them. She's laughing with them. She's having such a great time. But his friends are like, you seem to have dimmed your light, right? Like you seem a little different. And he's like, well, I'm not making all these jokes because she doesn't laugh at my jokes. Well, maybe they're not funny. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And he says that they're basically just coexisting. They don't cuddle. She doesn't say anything to him in the morning, no kiss in the morning. Now, I want to clarify something and correct me if I'm wrong. Did he not say earlier on in this season that he likes to sleep in? And did they not decide that she would get up early for the most part and go to the gym by herself, and that could be her alone time, and that would be enough for her? Because I feel like that's what they talked about on vacation, that she would go to the gym, that would be her alone time, and then she'd go to work, and obviously she wouldn't be with him, and so by the time she came home she'd be good, she wouldn't need any more alone time, and that's what their like sort of cycle would be. So I feel like that's what's happening. um so I don't really know why he's saying that they're just coexisting in a way. And also like if he wants to sleep in. If she kissed him, he'd wake up. I feel like he would be annoyed by that, especially somebody like this, because he seems to get annoyed at like the smallest things and he's always getting mad at her. So I could see him getting mad at her. And so, sorry. So to me, like if I had this decision with my partner that you're going to get up early, you're going to go do your thing, I would expect not to get a kiss in the morning because we're not getting up at the same time. Do you know what I mean? It's the same as like not doing a good night text. Somebody came at me about this once, not came at me, but like I remember like talking to a friend about this once where she was like, I don't know, we were like comparing relationships or something at the time. And she said something like, well, like you guys don't send a good night text to each other. And I'm like, we go to bed 3 hours apart. And we did at the time, right? Like I went to bed at like 9 p.m. at the time, and this guy I was dating went to bed at like midnight. So like it was different, right? Because we weren't necessarily physically aligned. We weren't doing the same thing at the same. I don't know. I To each their own. It's sort of what I'm saying, right? Like I just kind of assume that again, because they had the conversation where she was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get up on my own," that like her giving him a kiss in the morning when they're not up at the same time will is sort of moot because he's sleeping, right? Like I don't know. Unless he's a heavy sleeper and he wants that, just bring it up, right? And maybe he's like, it's such a small thing, and I'm sure she'd actually do it. I'm sure she would. And I said this on Tane's podcast, and I stand by it, that I truly believe if she just had sex with him, he'd be fine with this. Because, like, I think that that's the thing that's lacking for him. He keeps saying they're living parallel lives, and he doesn't feel like she's filling his cup, and he's just like using all of like these bad moments. But, I really feel like this is just about the sex. And when they go to the group dinner, he just like completely comes at her and makes this like a complete Caitlyn problem. He questions if she even likes him. And she's like, is this like a shit on Caitlyn session? Like, what the hell? And she's like, there were so many good moments. Why can't you think about those? And so on the ride home, they talk about this a bit more. And he says that she only lightens up and he only gets to see her personality in front of the cameras. And she's like, okay, did we not go to this EDM fest? And did you not say that that was the best day of your life? And he's like, yeah. And she goes, where were the cameras? So again, I think he's just like saying a lot of shit. And he's just like not looking at any of the positives. He's just like, I'm used to this and I want this. And it's like, she's, I just feel like with any of these couples, you know, the more that these guys rush them or the more that the partner rushes the other partner, the more it's going to hold them back. Because every time you do that, it just sort of puts like a picture. This is like a train, right? And it's like, I'm getting towards you. I'm becoming more attracted to you. It's like choo 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 choo. You get closer to the end, and you sort of get to the point where it's like, okay, now I want to be more touchy feely with you, like choo 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 choo. But like every time that they put a break in it, and then all of a sudden the train just like puts to a halt, right? And you maybe back up a little bit. You have to sort of go back a few steps and like then rejig the train a little, and then in such a short, it's funny because I feel like here I have a good like I don't know if the right word is analogy, but here's sort of what I'm thinking. I feel like okay, wait, I think I've lost my train of thought. Let me think about it for a second. The the couples, let's call them the men because I feel like it's the men. The men in these couples who feel like the women are not getting there quickly enough shouldn't be here because and I sort of didn't too, like if you're a slow burn. But like, no, I just mean the ones who are, you know, taking a second to get there naturally within this process, aren't doing it quickly enough. But at the same time, they're the ones who are actually holding their partners back in this expedited process by continuing to question how quickly they're getting there. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think that's sort of the major problem here. It's not that these people, the women, can't get there by the end of this, or they wouldn't have been able to have gotten there in this 6-week period or 8-week period or however long this process is. I think they're being actually prevented from that and held back from that by their partners who are questioning them all the time and halting them from progressing because they're constantly being questioned. Then their feelings start to diminish a little bit. Their feelings start to regress a little bit. And then they have to build those feelings back up again, right? And then there isn't enough time. So I blame the men. I always do. All right, guys, that is the end of the show. I hope that you enjoyed it. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads at The Bravo Investigator. You can join the Facebook group, and you can subscribe to the YouTube channel to watch episodes like today. And I also have a whole new podcast called All You Need Is You, which is a podcast about living your best solo life. You can find that podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Just type into the search bar into Apple or Spotify, All You Need Is You, and then download the show, follow the show, listen to the show. I love you, BBs. I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at the Bravo Investigator. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and join the Facebook page. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a 5-star review.